third Sunday of the month on 92.7 FM.
Morena Wairarapa. Welcome to MMP on Arrow FM 92.7 on this Thursday morning. A little bit of a grey start to the day. The sun's going to come out later, I'm sure. How are you all doing? Aren't we thriving in this springtime of ours? The blooms are still around us. The grass is growing, the farmers are happy, and it's another spring day. So today I'm delighted to have Mr. Keith Austin in the studio with me. Keith is, let me turn your mic on, Keith.
Good morning. Morena.
So Keith and I have been playing and composing music for probably nearly 10 years now. And he's also an author and a music aficionado. He's a keyboard maestro. He can do anything on the keyboards that you should ever desire. Fix them, sell them, inform about them. He travels the country tuning pianos. And most importantly, he lives in Masterton and thoroughly enjoys it. Keith, how would you like to carry on from there?
Well, thank you for the wonderful introduction, Rob. And it's a real pleasure to be here, actually, and I appreciate all that. Shall we play some music?
Well, what I thought we'd do, I usually start the show with a bit of information for people, because that's what we're here to do. Mm-hmm. And it's still school holidays. It's the last few days of the spring break. And there are lots of school activities, or let's say activities out of school for school children. So I'd like to tell you about the Aratoi school holiday activities at Aratoi Wairarapa Museum of Art and History in Bruce Street on Thursday today, the 14th of October, from 10 until 4, and continuing on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Aratoi is thinking all about faces. We have 3 fun activities to keep you and your family busy. All our activities are free with no need to book. Portrait Me is an exhibition that started last Saturday, and I think it's still up for people to enjoy. Sketch artist Antoinette Sale will be in residence probably this Saturday. She certainly was there last Saturday. There's a mask makeover that's going to continue on Thursday, today, from 11 till 2 in the Aratoi foyer. It's a fun drop-in activity for everyone. Then there is the eye-to-eye portraits from the collection, which is an exhibition at Aratoi, and that is on today from 10 till 4. The portrait is one of the enduring themes throughout art history. A portrait is not merely a record of a subject's physical features. It can offer a vivid sense of that person's presence, their status, their wealth and their character. On display, there are paintings from Colin McCann's charcoal on paper portrait of his wife, the artist Anne McCann, to the 19th century Te Puna portraits by Gottfried Lindau, and a contemporary etching by Wairarapa artist Stephen Allwood. All of these are on display at our wonderful art gallery on Bruce Street. Now, if you kids want something to do that you haven't been allowed to do before, perhaps you could persuade Mum and Dad to take you to the Impact Paintball. But I will emphasise it's a low-impact paintball. It's at the Borderlands Paintball venue, 516 Belvedere Road, Carterton. And tomorrow, Friday the 15th of October, they're open from 10 until 12:15. It's $30 per child. You need to be 8 to 11 years old, and the $30 pays for paint, which you're going to use a lot of, pays for all the gear that you're going to use, the costume you're going to get into, and I think you get morning tea or perhaps maybe I shouldn't speak too much about that. It'll tell me later on what you get. It's an open day paintball game that has no minimum number of players. Don't worry, your kid won't be the only one there. Other kids will be too, of a similar age. So that's a message for parents. Kids aged 8 to 11 are invited to come along and give low-impact paintball a try for just $30. The cost will gain you, your kid, entry to our awesome field, a safety briefing, a gear run-through, mask and marker, which is a gun, chest protector, optional, that's the higher of all those, and of course paintballs. Your kids will receive 100 paintballs throughout the different rounds we play. And if you feel like you want to buy more paintballs, that's great. Extra paintballs are $15. Your kids can expect to play 3 plus 10 to 15 minute rounds with a break in between. Feel free to bring snacks and drinks as we have picnic tables. We do have some drinks for sale. So look out for that, folks. Tomorrow, 10 till 12:15 at the Borderlands Paintball on Belvedere Road in Carterton. I don't have a phone number, sorry. You probably can Google Borderlands Paintball and look out for the kids' low-impact paintball morning. School holidays. One last thing and then we'll get on to some music. The Toy Maker Holiday Workshops for Children at the Cobblestones Museum on Main Street in Greytown. So here, it's possible to make your own toys out of wood. And you're given all the materials, you're given the tools to use, you're given guidance as to how to make it, and for each toy you pay a certain fee. So I can go through the list of what the options are. You can make wooden block houses. These are good for 4 to 10-year-olds. They're $25 each. You can make a wooden camera. That's for 4 to 10-year-olds also $25. You can make a wooden bus. That's for 5 to 12-year-olds. That's $35. A wooden pickup truck, 5 to 12-year-olds, is also $35. Older children, 6 to 12, you can make a wooden aeroplane, you can make a robot or a sailboat, and you can even make a wooden dog. So check those out. It's at the Toy Maker Holiday Workshops for Children at the Cobblestones Museum. It's from 10 till 3:30, today the 14th of October, Friday, Saturday and Sunday following. I think Sunday's the last day for that. Actually, no, it's not. It's Saturday is the last day in this little run, and then again next weekend, the 23rd of October. The Toy Makers back at Cobblestones. Keith, how's that for a start to the MMP show? Are you getting the hang of it?
Vastly intrigued in the toy factory.
Yes.
Get to make your own wooden toys. I remember wooden toys when I was a kid.
Yes, weren't they great?
They're brilliant.
I think I was given mostly wooden toys. I don't think I ever got to make one. Yeah. Hey, here's Barry Saunders. Would you like to say a little bit about the Barry you know? We've had Barry play with us at the Tin Hut. We haven't had him play with us at Coco yet.
No,
but he's very available, willing and keen to play, and offers a huge contribution wherever he plays. Yes. The last time I heard him play was at Jack Barlow's farewell party, yes. Jack and Rachel's farewell party. Showman. Remember? I think you did the sound for him.
That's right, yeah.
Anyway, folks, here is Barry Saunders with a song.
Standing in a stranger's room with strangest things all around me. She's turning the pages one by one. Now I'm staring out the window. I put some coins on the table and hope to pay back anything that I borrowed. I go singing inside, here comes tomorrow. Here comes tomorrow. Here comes tomorrow. walking out to Red Rock on an April Sunday, past the man fixing his car, and past the woman with the baby. And there's a strip of scarlet just above the horizon, and I'm singing inside, here comes tomorrow, here comes tomorrow, here comes tomorrow. One step at a time, my friend, I walked out to sea, but I made it back in again. Standing in a stranger's room with strangers' things all around me. She's turning the pages one by one. I just keep staring out the window. I put my cards on the table and hope they're not stacked against me, but I don't really care.
Another Barry Saunders groove. Wasn't that exceptional? Lovely to see the band rocking in behind him too.
Yes.
We were just talking a little bit about Barry's music, and it's spectacular how individualistic his sound is. You know, you can always tell when Barry's singing, whether there's a Barry Saunders song or a Waratah song for that matter. It's got a particular atmosphere, hasn't it?
Yes.
And the arrangements are always very precise and effective and relatively uncluttered.
Yeah, well, I remember seeing him in the Waratahs live when they were in Wellington, and I was always impressed with his voice. He always reminds me a little bit of Tom Petty, vocal-wise.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Well, it's definitely a country singing voice, isn't it?
Yes.
Kind of the ballad, you know, the crooner, but
Yeah.
but a little bit kind of more raw than a real crooner.
It's a crossover, I
we like making comments, that's for sure. We've got lots to say, haven't we, Keith?
We have.
Tell me a little bit about your musical experience, because you've been in the music game since you were in your teenage years, haven't you? Even at school, you were playing keyboards and bands and arranging things.
My most prevailing memory of the school rock band was we tried to put a rock band together, and the teacher, who was a American woman teacher from a religious background, she actively tried to disband the school rock band because rock and roll is the devil's music and this sort of thing. So we actually had to practice in secret. It was it was clandestine rehearsals in the school hall. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But from such inauspicious beginnings, I suppose you could say I've carved out a career in music for most of my life.
Yeah.
I love classical, I love rock and roll, I love jazz.
Yeah. And you've done some composing as
Yes,
well, haven't you?
yes.
You've written a beautiful orchestral piece.
Yes, I've written a number of orchestral pieces, and I think it was a couple of years ago, was it? We debuted the Voyager 2 tone
Yeah.
poem,
Yeah.
and that was out at Stonehenge, Aotearoa,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a wonderful time there. Voyager 2, very briefly, celebrates the Voyager 2 space probe on its journey past the outer planets of our solar system, and because Voyager itself is a very electronic thing, my decision was to make the actual sound electronic, so I used up to 30 tracks, believe it or not, of electronic synthesizers
Yeah.
as the orchestra.
Yeah. Brilliant. Hey, what about if we play a couple of songs now? Because you're set up with your keyboard.
Yes, I've got my keyboard here.
Fancy that. And I've got my guitar.
And we even found a guitar for Rob. There we go.
So this is the acoustic version of a song we do by Bob Dylan titled One More Cup of Coffee. Your eyes are like two jewels in the sky. Back is straight, the hair is smooth on the pillow where you lie. But I don't sense affection, no gratitude, no love. Your loyalty is not to me, to the stars above. One more cup of coffee for the road. One more cup of coffee before I go to the valley below. Your daddy, he's an outlaw and a wanderer by trade. He'll teach you how to pick and choose, how to throw a blade. He oversees his kingdom, so no stranger does intrude. His voice it trembles as he calls out for another plate of food. One more cup of coffee for the road. One more. Your sister sees the future like your mama and yourself. You've never learned to read or write, no books upon your shelf. And your pleasure knows no limits. Your voice is like a lark, but your heart is like an ocean, so mysterious and dark. One more cup of coffee for the road. One more cup of coffee before I go to the valley below. Thank you, Keith. Very nice. I think we had the volume up a little bit on some of the mics. I'm not quite sure how that came across. We haven't got a sound guy, Keith. We're doing everything. As
We need a
usual.
sound engineer.
As usual.
We need a sound engineer. Yep.
Should we have a go at Seven Black Swans?
Yes.
So, folks, we're just going to play you a couple of our songs and then get back to the purpose in hand, which is to tell you more about what's happening in the Wairarapa on MMP. And this is Radio FM. In the fading daylight, he looked out over 7 black swans feeding at the lakeside, to a bush-clad hill beyond still water, white gravestones standing on the sunset. That's no place for worldly attention, only open to realms beyond time. The chief was the heart of his federation. He went alone to the sunset isle. The task of the chief was to lead his people. The times of old, nature guided his rule. He looked to the earth and the stars for their knowledge, with love for his people. They loved him too. That's no place for worldly attention, only open to realms beyond time. The heart of his federation, he went alone to the sunset isle. Came the settlers with different ambitions, most of them striving to get what they could. Powerless, he saw the tribe was scattered and ruined, its values ignored, customs misunderstood. That's no place for worldly attention, only open to realms beyond time. The chief was the heart of his federation. He went alone to the sunset isle. Now can it be renewed, a sense of belonging, to replace what's been lost to the culture of self? The church and the government fail to unite us. Will he find rest on the sunset isle? That's no place sunset isle? Will he find rest on the sunset isle? Will he find rest on the sunset isle? That's 2 songs, Keith.
Wonderful.
Yeah, you like that one, don't you?
It is one of my favourites. It's one of these sort of eternal songs that you never really get tired of playing.
Yeah, well, you can see the input from Keith Austin there, everybody. That piano playing is quite mesmerising and transporting, I would say.
Yes.
Hey, Keith.
You originally wrote it at the side of a lake.
I did.
I saw these.
I was actually on a honeymoon,
Right.
and I was looking out the window quite a lot.
Mm.
It was a beautiful spot just on the west end of Lake Rotoiti, a kind of a timeshare hotel place, and I was there for 4 or 5 days. And the swans were there just at the lakeside, and right across the end of the lake was this hill with a white gravestone. It always shone in the sunset. It was mostly sunset when it came, because the sun then came from the west.
From the west, yeah.
Yeah. It was a vivid picture, and I wrote the first version of that back in about 1991 or 2.
Yes.
Or even earlier than that. It could have been 1990. And then I resurrected it when we had our visitors from Australia.
That's
you remember?
Isn't it the way sometimes
Loosely woven.
Yes. you write the first verse of a song and then put it away for a few years and then pull it out again and have another look at it.
Yes.
Take it out and
Yeah.
oh yeah, I can write some more verses on that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and even change the chord progression so that the song changes
Yes.
completely. But somehow the impulse was enough to give it some life.
Yes.
You know, just a little bit of
Yes.
birthing life.
I do think it's one of our most popular songs. We always play that at whatever gig or function we're at. Yeah.
And talking about us playing, Keith, we could do a bit of promotion, couldn't we, about our gig tomorrow at Coco?
Coco, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you don't know about Coco, folks, it's what used to be Cafe Cecile. In fact, it used to be the aquarium in Queen Elizabeth Park when I was a kid. And now it's this wonderful restaurant cafe run by Priscilla
Yes.
and her crew, and they have us on a Friday night. They host a music evening which Keith and I organised called Friday Night Live, and we haven't been able to do it for probably about 10 weeks now. We've missed,
Yes.
haven't we? 3 or 4 venue dates that we've set up and just had to cancel or postpone.
Yes, well, it's the fact that COVID lockdown affects everybody, including us musicians. And
Wow, yeah.
yes, I've been looking forward to getting back to playing at Coco. We're going to have a great evening. We've got a great friend of mine called Mark Bradley, who's one of the most amazing drummers I've ever had the privilege to work with, and he'll be there tomorrow night too. He's a wonderful chap.
So he's driving up from Upper Hutt. But then we've also got Stefan and Gail, our local friends. Stefan, who's the hardest working musician in the history of the Wairarapa.
Yes.
And then there's Jonas and Catherine,
Yes.
going to do their mid-European folky stuff and a bit of audience participation, no doubt. And then Laura Cheetham is going to open the show with a lovely singer-songwriter set of mostly her own songs. Keith, let's go to some information for our dear friends and listeners, shall we? Do you want to read out some of the things that are coming up?
Yes. It's a little hard to read in this light and this really tiny print on this paper. So, where are we? Yes, Thursday morning bikers, short rides for everybody. I'll turn my keyboard down. Call Liz Michelson, 06216 2187 after 5 p.m. We have here belly dance for beginners, Kiwi Hall, Featherston, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Call Antonia on 021 105 7649.
Can you imagine what happens in a belly dancer class, can't you?
Especially a beginning belly dance
Yes,
class.
yes.
Yes. I was going to say, can I come along?
All your life you've been pining.
I've been.
Do we?
It's been my life's ambition to learn belly dance. It must be fascinating. Yes, we've got Digital Seniors. This is a computer. They do computer, tablet, and smartphone advice and coaching. Free one-on-one. Drop in or call free phone 0800 373 649 Martinborough. That's the St Andrew's Church at Martinborough, 9:30 to 11 a.m. and the Union Church in Featherston from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. And this is all from Thursday, October the 14th in the Wairarapa midweek. Then we have the Okinawan Goju-Ryu Karate, South End School Hall, 275 High Street South, 6:30 to 8:30. Call Jackie at 027 325 3370.
Very good. What day are you up to now?
We're up to Friday, October the 15th.
Yep.
We have spontaneous dance at the Kiwi Hall, Featherston. Spontaneous dance, it sounds fascinating. I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Kiwi Hall, Featherston, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Call Paula Miller, 022 075 3867. Also Friday, October the 15th, Masterton Social Badminton Club, Chanel College Gymnasium, Herbert Street, that's in Masterton. Enter through the tree-lined entrance by the bus stop, 7 to 9 p.m. Call Hamish McGregor. 021 259 7684. And lastly, we have the Senior Net Wairarapa. This is computer and cell phone help for, shall we say, senior people. 1 to 2:30 p.m. And that's at the departmental buildings.
Thank you, Keith. And can you believe it? There are still folk who never use a computer or a smartphone, or don't know what a tablet is. They prefer, and I can't blame them, actually, because computers and phones, or the computer in the phone, can take over your life, can't they?
It's easy.
And some people don't budget the time they spend. I'm guilty of that too. I get a feedback somehow. Someone tells me how many hours I've been on the screen in the last week. And some weeks it's about 3 or 4 hours more than the previous week.
And the most astonishing thing is you don't realise you spent that amount of time on your device.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I work in the part-time in the local Masterton music store, the Sealar Music Works down in Queen Street, Masterton. And just yesterday, a lovely old chap came in wanting to know if we had a particular song in sheet music. And I said to him, we could probably get it for you, but the best place to look for it is online. Oh, well, I don't have a computer. I don't know how to use a computer.
Yeah.
And so there are still those people, and I respect the fact that they choose not to use computers for that very reason.
Well, they have a lot more time for gardening and reading the paper and
healthy outdoor
walking
activity.
up the hill or out into the country.
Yes.
Or out to the bush. Keith, you wrote a book. I think before we go on any further, we should hear a little bit about your book.
Oh, yes.
And your plans for it.
Yes. It's some people have trouble with the pronunciation of the title. K''YRA. And it's pronounced Kyra.
Kyra, yeah.
And it's actually part of a fictional language that I invented especially for the book. The book itself is called Kyra Hunting for Unity. I wrote it quite a few years ago now. It's I like to call it prehistoric fantasy fiction. Most fantasy fiction is in the so-called high fantasy genre of castles and magic swords and dragons and sorcerers and so forth. This is prehistoric. It's a prehistoric setting without any of the magic sorcery or anything like that. It's still fantasy fiction. instead of dragons, we have, and you can see on the cover there, huge cats
Yes.
called Kihan. They're a fictional creature called a Kihan. And
Do they have special powers?
their special power is that they are the only creature in this, the only four-legged creature in this particular setting who have the power of speech and extreme intelligence.
Right.
You could almost consider the Kihan to be the Vulcans of Ira.
Uh-huh.
They have a very sophisticated manner of elocution, my dear friend.
Yeah.
And this is the way that they speak. It's a very complex story. There are lots of intertwining plot lines and
Yeah.
so forth.
Do you want to read a little bit from
Yes.
it? Yeah. Just read us an excerpt, a couple of paragraphs.
The protagonist is actually a human woman from London, England, who accidentally got zapped into this, through a time warp, into this, I call it a savage prehistoric paradise. And she, in this particular chapter, which I'll read, it only takes a few minutes, she's a human woman from London, England, and she's now living with the Kihan, with the giant cats, and she's being taught to hunt, which she doesn't particularly want to do, but the big cats have decided she's going to learn how to hunt. So I'll read, this will take about a minute. Something nudged Kia in her midriff. Half asleep on one side, she curled tighter. The thing poked her again. With a sleepy murmur, she opened her eyes and looked up. Luma, one of the Kihan, was there with her cubs. The banked hut fire just filtered through the darkness of night. Luma withdrew her paw and peered anxiously into Kia's face, her eyes a pale gold, appealingly wide apart. "Are you ready to go hunting?" Her voice was deep and soft. Kia snorted. "Hunting? Luma, it's the middle of the night." "Precisely," said Luma. "Come along, I shall teach you to be a Kihan." Kia glared at Luma, but got out of bed anyway, wrapped a fur around herself and stepped into her moccasins. "I hope this will be worth it. I don't like being woken up just to go traipsing around in the bush at night." "Mama, may we hunt too?" squeaked Zema, the male cub, jumping on his mother's tail. "I'm ready to go." "Negative, Zema," said Luma. "Wait for my return." She batted him playfully to the ground, licked him and lovingly head-rubbed all three cubs, then turned and led a silently stewing Kia off down the slope to the forest below. "Night is the time for hunt," Luma explained. "We take advantage of the dark to creep up on our prey." "But I can't see in the dark," Kia protested, stumbling over an invisible something that felt like a clump of tussock. "You are Kihan. You will learn. Watch me." "Where?" retorted Kia, peering into the dark. This was a dumb way to get your food. Luma's lithe body was a black shape gliding noiselessly between black trees. The spreading of night had turned her from a bulky Kihan into a slinking wraith on paws. Tagging behind, Kia concentrated on her haunches, which were all she could see, and wished she was at the Burger King in Piccadilly Circus. Suddenly Luma vanished. There was a crash, followed by a thud and a startled squeak. "Success," came Luma's voice. "Terrigan, did you see how I caught it?" "I can't even see you, Luma. This is ridiculous." Luma came up with a wriggly furry thing in her mouth and dropped it at Kia's feet. It gathered its little legs under it and scampered off into the bush. "Now," she said, "you may try." So Kia stared into the darkness looking for the Terrigan. Luma sensed what she was doing. "Your eyes are no longer dependable." "What am I supposed to do then? Use my ears?" The big cat's reply was nearly a purr. "Exactly." Astonished, Kia paused, then leaned forward and listened. The faint whispers in the dark had been there all along. Now she found she could separate the subtlety of noises into categories: rustlings, snuffles, and the ever-present breeze. A tiny pattering could have been a mare, a mouse. Was that a heavy breathing, or was it just the wind? Tell me what you hear, said Luma. Terrigan in the undergrowth, I think. Pounce on it. Pounce? Yes, pounce. So Kia crouched, pretended she really was a Kihan, and pounced at the sound of the Terrigan. The ground leapt out of the night and hit her over the head. She picked herself up, humiliated. Behind her came Luma's purr of laughter. Try again, listen, then spring. I know that, I'm not stupid. Turning her head this way and that, Kia located the patter of its feet and leapt. The Terrigan vanished. Listen, then spring. Kia listened so hard that her forehead hurt, bringing every sound into focus. The tick-tick of the Terrigan's feet, the swish of breeze and grass, the soft, slow breathing of her mentor. Focus. Focus. Pounce! She clutched a large furry thing and was startled when it lifted her hands up to Luma's nearly invisible face. Well done. You are improving despite your inferior senses and stubborn mind. It's your paw. It's your bloody paw, Luma. Luma purred. It was all the time, Kia. This is how we teach our cubs.
Very good, Keith. Let's play another song, shall we?
Absolutely. What
I
would you
thought we
like to
might
play?
do Quietly Going Blues.
Of course. Now, I have to set up. Hang on. There's a very complicated keyboard, and I have to set up all sorts of sounds on here. So, in fact, I'll do it this way.
We're in the key of E, folks. To the end of his life, still having many plans in mind. Always a kind word, would share a laugh. But now preparing for realms beyond time. Doctor quietly, quietly going blue. Quietly going blue. The stroke was a terrible shock. He fought it with all his might. Not speak, only had hearing and sight. Got the quietly, quietly going blue. Quietly going blue. It would be his last walk in the garden, to inspect the grass that he'd sown weeks before. He could not deny his time was calling, leaving seeds to grow forevermore. Got the quietly going quietly going. It would be his last walk in the garden, to inspect the grass that he'd sown weeks before. He could not deny his time was calling, leaving seeds to grow forevermore. Got the quietly going, quietly going. Got the quietly going, quietly going blue. There we are, Keith. No extra amplification particularly.
Nope.
Just good old acoustic stuff.
Yes.
That was a song about my old man, everybody. I wrote it with Keith's help some years ago, and we love playing that. I think a little bit more information before we head on out of here. What have we got? We've got 12 minutes. We've actually got less than that. We've got about 9 minutes left. I've got to keep an eye on the time. And by the way, everybody, this is Arrow FM, Community Radio, 92.7 on Thursday the 14th of October. You're listening to MMP with Rob and Keith here today. So Monday coming up, the 18th of October. Well, there's quite a lot on. Carterton's got the Community Toy Library open. School holidays will, of course, be over, so there might be a little bit less traffic at the toy library, but the preschoolers will be looking for their toys, I'm sure. The Hospice Wairarapa have a support services promotion. If you need any help from the Hospice Wairarapa, call 06 378 8888, and that's to help anybody free of charge who's dealing with terminal illness. There's a free community fit club with two times. One's at 6 o'clock in the morning and the other's at 11 o'clock at the Carrington Park in Carterton. All ages, all fitness levels. And you can call Di to find out more about that on 027 498 7261. Moving on to Tuesday. Well, Featherston has a toy library open on Tuesday at the Featherston Community Centre from 9 till 11. We're into toys today. We've had the toy maker and the toy library. Golly, kids, they've just got a ball. And, of course, paintballs, kind of like toys, isn't it?
Very much, yes.
I think we should go and do some paintball.
I was just
have a bit of a
so.
relax, and it'd be a good $30, wouldn't it?
Except don't wear your suit, Rob, whatever you do.
Oh, well, it can be washed. I think the paint comes off.
Yes.
It would have to. You'd hear about it. Hey, everybody, let's celebrate the presence of the Okinawan Goju Ryu Karate Club. And they've got venues in Masterton, Carterton, Martinborough, and Featherston. On Tuesday, they meet in the Martinborough Primary School Hall, corner of Dublin and Robert Streets. Juniors 5:30 to 6:15. Juniors and adults 6:15 to 8. And you call Claire for the juniors 027 832 9743, and you call Anna for the adults, and that's from 6:15 till 8. Anna's phone number is 021 163 8867. Free literacy and numeracy classes. So for those of you who struggle with your reading and possibly with your writing and somehow slip through the education system.
And mathematics.
Yeah. And you can catch up with free literacy and numeracy classes at Literacy Aotearoa in Masterton. Carol is running that operation. Her phone number is 022 524 5994. And the Featherston Wahine Singers. Can you imagine the Wahine Singers in Featherston, Keith?
Yes.
They meet from 7 till 8:30 at the Featherston Community Centre on Tuesday. That's every Tuesday. And if you want to find out more about the Featherston Wahine Singers, call Susan on 021 246 4884. I think a couple of items for Wednesday, and then we're going to play our last song, Keith, and just to take the show out.
Yes.
Yeah. Wednesday, we've got the Wairarapa Rockers, the rock and roll dancing club. If you're a couple, you can inquire whereabouts to go for some couples rock and roll. 027 333 193. 1793. I'll say that number again. Wairarapa Rockers, 027 333 1793. I'm sure you'll all be keen.
And that's a rock and roll club.
It's a rock and roll club. And they don't have an address, so obviously they move from week to week where they're going to get together.
Yes.
But I think one of the places they get together is the Carterton RSA. They use that dance floor there sometimes. But
So
don't quote me. Don't.
Rock and roll dancing.
And then, of course, there's the Waka Ori Ori Shufflers, and that's a line dancing club meeting at the Red Star Club Rooms on Herbert Street in Masterton. Improvers meet from 5 till 6:30, so I guess we'd all be improvers, wouldn't we?
Well, we all seek to improve ourselves.
At line dancing.
At line dancing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. It could be a metaphor for life, couldn't it?
And of course, I remember when line dancing first came out, and Billy Ray Cyrus, "Don't Tell My Heart, My Achy Breaky Heart."
Yeah.
That's where the whole thing started.
Yeah. Keith, let's play our friends our favourite song. This, everybody, is the kind of like the single off our album, and it's got a particularly poignant sort of theme these days because we have to do a lot of thinking to sort out what's going on, to the point of being partly overloaded, I think, with how much we have to think about. And some of it just requires quiet contemplation to get into the right thought pattern. So I can recommend relaxation and meditation for anybody struggling to make sense of things. And if you want a little bit of inspiration, listen to this song. This is Think About It by Rob and Keith.
Hey! Ha! Ah!
Well, you may think you have to be better than you good job, more money, drive a nicer car, make something of yourself, join the right club, be a successful player in the game of life. Who is this questioning your way to be? Will it put you in an infirmary? No one's being tested when it's not real tough. Anyone can chug along, we all get enough. Then something comes at you, the order is upset. Where is the protection? Where's the safety net? Who is this questioning your way to be? Will it put you in a penitentiary? Down that road leads nowhere. You can only guarantee there'll be tears to spare. Take a good look at just who you are. Play to your strengths. Passion will take you far. Who is this questioning your way to be? Will it make you ultimately free? Will it make you ultimately free? Yeah! That's it, folks. That's it from MMP for the 14th of October. Hope you have a lovely day ahead, lovely weekend coming up, and lots of sunshine in your life. So it's Keith and Rob from MMP signing off for this week. Bye-bye.